My father was not actually the first member of Parliament in the Marten family. There was a certain Henry Marten. He was one of the signatories of Charles I's death warrant. Anyway, he was the youngest of 5 children, my father. Lived in Surrey. He went to school in Rossall in Lancashire, together with his 2 other brothers. And he qualified as a solicitor only just before the war. So he never actually practiced as a solicitor until after the war, and then only very briefly because he found it rather boring. Anyway, he then was signed up and joined the Northamptonshire Yeomanry, which you did in those days. And he was going through the papers of the commanding officer, which was one of his duties, and he realised that there was a letter on there which said, looking for recruits for Special Operations Executive, which for those of you who don't know, was dropping people behind the lines in enemy territory. And my father, who had done an awful lot of training and had seen not much action, which happened a lot in the run-up to the war, decided to apply. And he, after much training, he achieved success and joined SOE. And he was on a troop ship going to Algiers because he was going to be dropped in the southeast of France, near Avignon. And he'd had a slight parachute problem, leg problem, and he went up to the ship's captain on this boat and said, do you happen to have any physiotherapy on board? And the ship's captain said, oh yes, down to the bows of the ship, turn left, turn right, left again. And there's the physio department. And he went down to the physio department. And he always used to rather embarrass my mother with this. He met this beautiful physio. And the first word she said to him, in a professional capacity, of course, was, right, take your trousers down. So that's how they met. And when they got to... when they got to Algiers, they actually got engaged almost immediately. And my father was... actually, he was due to be dropped into France, and so the wedding was planned, but 2 days before the wedding, his commanding officer said, sorry, Neil, it's off, your wedding, I'm afraid. You're due to be parachuted in tonight to France. And my mother, of course, wasn't told about this. We weren't told until a few days later as to where he'd gone. So the wedding was scrubbed. And my father was dropped into France with a Frenchman and with an English radio operator. Landed in France with the French resistance group. Unfortunately, his radio operator's parachute didn't open, and he was killed instantly, and the radio was smashed as well. So no comms at all. And anyway, he met up with a resistance group, and his job out there was to link with the different resistance groups to assess what their good points and bad points were, how well equipped they were, what ammunition they required, what training they needed, all that kind of thing, as well as blowing up railway lines and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, after 6 or 8 months, he had to report back on the troops and the movements and what was going on and how good the various resistance groups were, because they were due to have the invasion fairly shortly. So he was picked up in Lysander in a field near Aix and flew back via Corsica to Algiers, whereupon he got married 2 days later. But then he was had to go back to France, so he was sent back to France and fought with the resistance groups and went back up towards Paris and then back into the UK. And after that, he was then dropped into Norway and was up the Norwegian coast, officially liberating and capturing Germans and doing all that kind of thing. So he had a big affiliation with Norway for the rest of his life, as well as with France. So that really is up to when he became, after the war. And after the war, he joined the Foreign Office, because he found being a solicitor not quite up to what he wanted to do.